Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming out this evening to this town meeting. I'm Councillor Steve Allen, I'm the Chair of Ramsgate Town Council, and it's my privilege to chair this meeting this evening. And so welcome to the annual town meeting for Ramsgate. I must say this is not a council meeting, this is a meeting for you. This is a residents' meeting, effectively, so it's all down to you. So I'll give you, right, as the chair of the town council, I have the authority to call this meeting and will be your chair for tonight, as I've just said. First of all, please can you raise your hand when you wish to speak, wait until you're called to speak, and please do not interrupt across or interrupt other speakers. Unlike a council meeting, all present have the right to speak, but there is no vote. Okay, there isn't a vote taking place at all. However, I should say that although it says this, should I say any votes taken do not commit the town to the district county council to any action. The matter must be considered by the relevant authority through their normal decision-making process. So if you wanted to come up with something, you want to go through the due process. Please can I ask you to turn off your mobile phones or put them to silent. That'd be great. For your knowledge, the emergency exit is the same way out as you came in. So that's your emergency exit. Don't forget to put your hats in front. But in case of emergency, you know, if there is an emergency, we can always open this as well. Just make sure you turn outside. We've got a head count, so we need to count the heads.
There's another door.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Another door back there.
Thank you. Also, this year is slightly unusual because the meeting is taking place during the pre-election period, which you know the local elections are on May the 4th, or the Star Wars period, as I would call it. The monitoring officer of Thanet District Council has confirmed that procedurally this is acceptable because no council decisions are being made. However, please be aware that this is not a hustings and there should be no party politics at this meeting or promotion of candidates. This is an opportunity for you as local residents to discuss your concerns and the elected members here present to listen to those concerns. So, please may I introduce you to our new district commander here, Ian Swallow, who's kindly agreed to be our guest this evening and to be able to give you an update of the police resources, etc. within that and anything else he thinks it would be beneficial for you to hear. I'd also like to ask our councillors, both sides, to just to introduce themselves in case you don't know who they are. I've got a clue or something. So if I could just ask you for one, just stand up and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, in Central Harbour, winning the dog, she comes to me. Hello, Brendan Elizabeth. Tricia Austin, Central Harbour. Oh, we are in Penn District.
Moses Montefiore.
Marina Huxley, Eastley. Rosanara, Indenaro.
David Green, Liverpool.
I'm reading Xena. Tony Hamilton, Status Montefiore Court.
Jane Hetherington, Newington.
And I'm Steve Albert, East I'm now, item 1 on the agenda. Oh, sorry, I have, apologies have been received from the leader of Thanet District Council, Councillor Ashley, the Chief Executive of Thanet Council, Mr Carmichael, and Councillors Linda Piper, Stuart Piper, and Pat Makinson, which have been duly noted. Well, item 1 is minutes of the town meeting, which was held on the 30th of March 2022. The draft minutes can be viewed at ramsgatetown.org/town-council. And so can I ask councillors can I have someone to propose the minutes as approved? Councillor Smith, and second, please, Councillor Wing. I ask all those in favour of the minutes, no? Thank you, that's carried. Thank you very, very much. Item 2 is the report from Kent Police, which Chief Inspector Peter Swallow we'll talk about the changes to neighbourhood policing that will affect the local community and provide some context on what the changes mean and what we are prioritising going forward.
Thank you, ladies and gents. Thank you very much for inviting me along this evening. It's a pleasure to be here. Before I get into the the updates from Kent Police, I think it's important that I tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm here. My name is Ian Swallow. I am the current district commander for Thanet Police. I've been a police officer for nearly 27 years. I grew up in Thanet, which I think is important for you to know. I'm born and bred in Ramsgate Hospital. I live in Broadstairs. I have a young family. My wife's a school teacher in a local school. My son is also a police officer. He's just moved to Sussex and therefore not persuaded to stay. I have done numerous jobs around the county, including most recently being a community safety lead for Thanet, and now I have the pleasure of moving into the Thanet District Command role. So my responsibility, in essence, is all policing within the Thanet District. Most specifically the uniform side of it, which is the part I want to speak to you this evening about. So I'm responsible for all frontline policing, so that would be your town beat officers, your frontline response officers, your police sports officers, and any other response that Thanet provides to any calls, etc. So that is my role. What I wanted to speak to you this evening about is policing in general for Thanet, where we are, what our challenges are, what we're going to be doing going forward within that policing context. It's a very interesting time for policing. I think it's fair to say in all my years of doing policing around the county and in other forces, we're in a very difficult time, both financially of course, but I don't think it will miss anyone's attention. The media release of the report of the Metropolitan Police Service. I'm very, very proud of working with Kent Police. I'm very, very proud of the culture we have in Kent Police and Thanet Police especially. What I would say from the very, very top is that the culture within Kent Police is a million miles away. The culture in the larger police forces, such as Metropolitan Police Force. However, what I will say is that we won't be ignoring the findings of any report. If there is anything that Kent can learn from the report going forward, we will absolutely take that forward. We only need to look into the atrocities of last year that ended up in Kent, the Wayne Couzens scenario. Now, Wayne Couzens was a Kent special constable before he became a Metropolitan Police officer. So for us to say that there are no issues that we can't face within Kent Police would be naive. And actually, if we kept our eyes closed like that, we would never see any improvement because we would think that we would do everything right, which clearly we're not. So there's things we need to improve on, but I think you'll find that Kent is one of the best forces in the country. That's not just me saying it, that's what the Peter Inspection and Majesty Inspector of State say as well. We're one of the absolute frontrunners in most areas of policing, and I'm very, very proud of that. So going into the future, I think we can keep up those standards. But the main reason I want to talk to you with that background context is what that means for you in Thanet. Now, I mentioned the financial backdrop and the challenges to policing. One of those challenges is that Kent, as well, has to save an awful lot of money going forward into the future. That prompted a review of neighbourhood policing and the way that we deliver frontline policing to the local community. What it means, and what you'll probably be aware of, and you've seen within the local media, is that we've lost an awful lot of our very valuable peace community support officers. We were about 300 for the county before the review started. At the end of that review process, we will be at about 100 for the county. Now, there is good news off the back of that, because we have a new chief constable, Tim Smith, and he has absolutely committed to frontline policing. Now, what that means is that we are getting an awful lot of funding from the government to employ police officers, PCs. Different forces are using that funding and that uplift of PCs in different ways. But in Kent, we are using that money to fund and resource frontline policing and neighbourhood policing. So what that means for Thanet, at the moment, you have a named, normally, peace community support officer for every ward within the district. As the PCSOs have gone down in numbers, we've had to double up, triple up, quadruple up, and whatever the ones that come after that up, to make sure that we carried on that coverage. In June, we go to a new model. Now, what that means is that every single ward represented by your elected members and your community will have a named police officer. Not a police community support officer, a police constable, a warranted officer. Every single ward in Thanet will have a police constable. Our current uplift numbers are looking about, there will be 22 police officers solely for frontline neighbourhood policing within Thanet. Now, but that, it's difficult to put in context if you don't know where we started and where we finished, but 22 police officers for one function within policing in Thanet is a huge number. So you can divide the wards up. We will be putting doubling up officers into the really, really busy wards. So, for example, Ramsgate Town Centre, Margate Town Centre, Cliftonville, the areas that are high demand for Kent Police, cause us the most sort of pain in terms of vulnerability, in terms of service, in terms of victims, in terms of everything that we have to do. We will be doubling up officers into those areas. We take that vulnerability and we measure it by a very complicated series of measures, but it relates to social demographics, it relates to affordability, it relates to housing, it relates to crime statistics, it relates to what happened last year, and we go back 3, 4, 5 years with our statistics to identify where we need to put our officers. So those key wards will have more than one officer. A bit like you do now, so there are 8 town officers currently in Thanet, largely based in Ramsgate Town Centre and Margate, 4 and 4. All but one will be staying in their wards, and the one that's not staying is going on to a different job. I'm not going to move him from his ward, he's just going to a different job in Kent Police. The additional officers, most wards will receive 1 police officer per ward. So your general wards will have 1 officer. Some wards, where there is very little in terms of antisocial behaviour statistics, crime statistics or troubles, will share an officer. I'll give you an example, whereby we have Nethercourt ward, which is actually a very, very safe ward, and we have Clifton ward, which again is a very, very safe ward. 1 officer will cover both of those wards. However, there will still be a named officer for that ward. And will still be able to go to that officer. And if you have a problem, if you have a question, if you have any ideas, if you wish to speak to them, that officer will be absolutely accessible to you. Now, we go live on that model on the 7th of June of this year. We won't be fully stocked and ready to roll 100% on the 7th of June this year, but we will be about 2/3 of the way there. In addition to their big officers, we're going to have a dedicated child protection team, which is called Child-Centred Policing Team. They will be responsible for the schools, and you're probably aware, some of you certainly will be, that about 6 months ago, Kent Police pulled out their schools officers. Well, we're going back, and that will be one of the functions of the Child-Centred Policing Team. Being in schools is so vital for the information, for the safeguarding, for the support, the two-way communication between head teachers, teachers and students and the police is so vital. So we're going back into schools. That team will also be responsible for missing children and the vulnerability around those missing children and every other safeguarding issue in relation to children that Kent Police will get involved with. And I could go on for hours talking about safeguarding and vulnerability around children. It's a vital piece of work. And that is something that we will have a bespoke team for within the neighbourhood policing model for that. So there's the CCPT and the town police officers. And lastly, but definitely not least, some of you will be aware of a multi-agency team called the MTF, the Multi-Agency Task Force, a really pioneering and forward-facing multi-agency team made up of police officers, the local authority, KFRS, the health service, and lots of other voluntary teams working together to solve that problem. Now, the MTF has been replicated in Medway, it's been replicated in Maidstone. Going forward, the HMIC recognised it as such a good way of policing and solving problems with our partners that they've replicated it across the entire county. So going forward, there will be 12 neighbourhood task forces. The Thanet MTF, and I get confusing because I'm talking about multi-agency MTF and neighbourhood task force NTF, but in essence, they're the same thing. The good thing is that because Thanet is recognised as probably one of the two most vulnerable and important districts within the county, us and Medway being in terms of policing responsibilities and demands, Thanet will get 2 neighbourhood task forces. Split so that you should get pretty much 7-day coverage of the task force working together to deal with Thanet's issues and problems. Now those task forces from a policing perspective will be made up of police officers and the remaining is community support officers that we have retained within the model. There will also be some PCSOs within CCPT, which are some policing. The Chief Constable has recognised how important PCSOs are. Yes, we had to save money, yes, we had to cut back, but actually the vital functions of our local PCSOs who have worked in schools, who have worked with young people, is so important that we've retained those individuals in the new model and they will sit within the new model as well. So in essence, that's the model going forward. It's going to be fairly painful. I say that sort of with a little bit of optimism that it will get better, because the reason is when you land a new model of this size across the entire county of 4,000 officers, it takes a lot of doing. And on day one, as I say, we won't be 100% full steam in dancing and driving forward. However, we'll be about 2/3 of the way there. Thanet will be in a much better position than lots of other districts because we have been recognised as a very important district. So we have made sure that we have got most of the resources in place in Thanet going forward day one. I anticipate that over the next 12 months from that June period, we will get up to full strength across the board. Neighbourhood policing will be, by next year, because I'll give myself a little bit of leeway to get it right, by next year, neighbourhood policing will absolutely be the forerunner and forefront in our minds of every single policing function we deliver to you. Because the new Chief Constable, Mr. Smith, recognises that actually it's the eyes and ears on the ground, it's that intelligence function, it's that community link, It's that day-to-day problem that our communities face that actually is what causes the most harm and what causes people the most anxiety. And if we back away from that and concentrate on the things that Kentleys are exceptional at, and when I talk about things like major crime, if something massive happens to the county, other forces come to Kent to solve it, and it happens regularly. But if we just concentrate on being brilliant at major crime, chances of anyone in here being involved in a major crime are tiny. But every single day you face antisocial behaviour, every single day you probably see drug dealers, every single day you see problems in the nighttime economy, every single day you see that antisocial behaviour and disorder that you probably go wearing the police. So my commitment to you is that we won't 100% get it right all the time, but that is what we are promising going forward, is that we are going to deliver a labor policing model that's fit for this part of the 21st century. It's been completely revamped, and we will deliver that service. So you should, I'm confident, see a big improvement. In terms of Ramsgate, everything that we do at the moment is focused on our core problems, as we mentioned. Now, we know that really and truly, Margate has all the fun and games of the beach and dreamland and all those issues in the summer, but realistically, for the rest of the year, Ramsgate Town Centre is kind of the epicentre of the nighttime economy, of everything that goes on, of a lot of our problems. We know that that's the case. So, working with my local authority friends and colleagues, we have started to, and we continue to, focus an awful lot of our funding and our project work in Ramsgate. I'll give you some examples. Best by None scheme, which is a pub-based scheme. It works a little bit like the star review that you get when you go into a pizza place or a kebab shop. It says what the food hygiene rating is for that shop. We've introduced that for 30, I think, for up to 100 premises within Ramsgate. And I'm pleased to say that all the licenses are now being issued, and it's a national scheme with an accreditation. They have to meet certain levels of standards for safety, cleanliness, for the resources, for everything that they deliver. So that's coming. On top of that, we have the Ask Angela, Ask Andrew scheme, which is improving safety for women and girls, especially within the nighttime economy. And then an absolute myriad underneath that are smaller projects designed to make what we call the safer spaces scheme, and that is about trying to improve Ramsgate a bit as a safe place to sort of live, to work, to associate, to go out in the evening, etc., etc. We had some money from our Peace and Crime Commission that came from the government a couple of years ago. We used that money to put more CCTV cameras in Ramsgate. Some of our councillor colleagues would have come with us on a walk and talk event where we identified where there was lighting issues, where there was a further need for cameras, where there were issues within the LTE. We use that information to target that by improving the lighting, by going, right, that's where we'll put the camera, right, that's where we need to focus our attention. So there's an awful lot of stuff going on, and what I can assure you is that will continue to go on, and we will continue to build upon that. I am really passionate about planning. That's the reason why I told you at the start that I'm a town lad through and through. I've worked in Canterbury, Dover, headquarters, Medway, you know me, and I've flown up down the motorways and past cars and had a great time. At this stage of my career, I'm now 100% committed to serving my community, which is this, and actually being part of this community is really important to me, and I mean that genuinely. My daughter dances at the Mars Theatre School in Edinburgh Street, 6 days a week, costs me a fortune. So I drive her 6 days a week to Mars Theatre School, and I don't want to see problems in Edinburgh Street car park, Meeting Street car park, sorry. I don't want to worry about her walking from Mars Theatre School to Chatham House where she goes for her second part of the afternoon on her own at night. And I don't want to have to then drive from Broadstairs back to Bradford and pick her up to drive 30 seconds because it's not a safe place to be. So I am really committed to improving the district, and I do genuinely need the support of the community, the support of the councillors to help us on that journey by telling us where things are working, telling us where things aren't working, help us on our way. There's a really great app. I haven't brought any literature with me, that's my fault, I do apologise, but if you go onto our website you can find it. It's called My Community Voice. Please download it, because it's a two-way interactive tool between yourselves and us. We will put out alerts on MCV, My Community Voice, to tell you where we are, what we're doing, where there are problems, appeal for witnesses, there's been a crime here, have you seen it? So it's almost like Twitter, but the benefit of it is that it's a direct link back to us. Because if you reply to it, you'll be speaking to the officer who put out the alert. And we can hone those alerts into specific wards, into specific streets. So as it develops and moves on, it will be a much better tool. It's only as good as the number of people that signed up to it. At the moment, we've got 700 to 800 people signed up to it. And it sounds great, it's quite a lot of people. But in the grand scheme of things, we're aiming at 10% of the entire population of the island, so we're long off. So please take that away. What I'll do is I'll get some literature to council colleagues, and then you can get those out to the community, that would be perfect. But yeah, please sign up to that, because that's your forum and your ability to talk to us and tell us what your priorities are and what the issues are. Thank you for listening. I've gone on and spoken to you, I do apologise, but I genuinely am very passionate about it. And I know there will be issues. I know you will all have examples where Henry didn't turn up to this job, or I didn't get the satisfactory outcome out of this job. I know that. We get reported thousands and thousands of crimes, and I'm sure you're aware of that. But I promise you, we're going to focus in the right direction and do our very best for you. So thank you very much for listening to my ramblings. And you have questions now?
If anybody's got any questions.
If not, I'll put my name and stuff or whatever. Basically, James Rose, I live in Nethercourt Ward. Welcome to our new post. I was going to ask, the case you reviewed, I won't go through the details obviously because I'm ready for this. The one thing they highlighted was the austerity and cutbacks of manpower and closure of police stations and all this sort of thing. What they didn't seem to cover is public order situations. Now, there's lots of demonstrations, obviously down in Dover and everything else. Public order is always the neighbourhood police that gets drawn off first to man these things. So are we going to see that again, or can we be assured the neighbourhood policing are going to stay in post and do their job?
Yeah, thank you, it's a very good question. So, as well as public order, I can talk about it in the broader sense in our bigger commitments. So, public order being one, national commitments being another. You do see situations where trained officers are, as you say, moved off, and then suddenly you've got a hole in the front line because we're dealing with other things. What I would say to that is that the absolute commitment from Mr. Smith, the Chief Constable, is that the neighbourhood policing will be completely siloed. So there will be a ring fence around our numbers at key times. So I'll give you an example. As we move into the summer, and we know it's going to be busy, there is an absolute minimum that we will not overlook when delivering a neighbourhood function. And that minimum is being given to our duty planners, so that when there is a commitment for public order or a commitment for a national commitment, whatever it may be, a major event, it's not taken from that staffing to take us below a minimum level. So although, yes, there are pressures, and yes, there are officers who are taken on to do different things, we will never go below what we see as an absolute minimum to deliver what I've just been telling you we will do.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks very much. Graham Burgess, Waterbury resident. We don't often get opportunities to feedback to people like yourself, so thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you very much for coming. Your passion is appreciated. It's also appreciated, and of course, you're very short staffed, so obviously there's what could be done at the moment. But with regard to eyes and ears, I did about that in Northern Ireland a few years ago. And could I just implore you, please, to get, and I understand your guys have to walk around in teams, in twos and threes. I do understand that, okay. But could you implore one of them, please, to talk less to themselves and more to the public? Because in that way, they are more likely to collect intelligence and collect information that might be relevant. If they could just open the conversation with the weather if they like, but as long as they get around to the questions that are quite key, which is have you seen anything peculiar, have you seen anything unusual, and try to do that on a one-to-one basis, because people are very often very cautious about imparting information in front of a witness. They will whisper in the policeman's ear, but they might not want to announce it in front of three of you.
Yeah, it's a very valid. What I would say is that in the neighbourhood model, the officers will be working independently. They will only be working in 2s or 6s sometimes if there's a really big event. When they own their ward, the expectation will be is they're out on foot in that ward, engaging with the community. One of the things that I've set as a precedent that they will deliver is a minimum of one monthly engagement event per ward, which they'll advertise. It might be a library, it might be a public building, it might be even outside, depending on the weather. But they will deliver one engagement event a month where they will be every single month. So if you don't see them on their perambulations, you know where they will be every single month. And yes, absolutely, the expectation, the instruction is that they will be out in the wards talking to people on a one-to-one basis, gathering that information, gathering that intelligence, and feeding back to you. Absolutely.
Good evening, Chief Inspector. My name's Dominic Murphy. I'm chair of a local residents group called Friends of Spencer Square. As someone who knows Ramsgate, you probably know Charlie Jordan Square, historic place just up the road. We are largely engaged in helping to maintain the governance there and other amenities. And I was particularly interested by what you said about each ward getting a named policeman. Will that policeman be resident anywhere near the ward? And how might we engage with them as a group to maybe invite them to come and talk to us, or to see how we can be mutually beneficial to one another?
Yeah, they won't exclusively live near you. However, being Thanet, the vast majority of police officers who have elected to be part of the neighbour team going forward are Thanet residents. It tends to be that geographically, because we're out on a limb somewhat, most people don't sort of commute into us. So you will find that most of them are local. In fact, I think we're going live with 14 beat officers on day one, or 22.
We're Central Park.
Yeah, so they will all know the area, they will all be local. I think of the 14, I think 12 all live in that. So they know the area and they believe in policing their home as much as I do. In terms of them speaking to you, yes, absolutely. Going back to what it says the gent over there, they will have set named engagement, but they will also be contactable. So their email, their phone numbers, you will be able to contact them and invite them to your groups, invite them to your meetings. And they will come and they will speak to you.
Can I just ask a quick second? How do we get those contact details?
And once we're live, every single one will be available on the website, on the Kent Police website. Every single one will be on the Kent Police website. So all you will have to do is go onto the Kent Police website, put your postcode in, and that will pop who your local police officer is, their contact details, how to get hold of them, and then go through it that way.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you. Thank you. I come from a teaching background, and I do believe that as a school teacher, if we dealt with the small things, then we actually had less big things to deal with. And I think it's been a long time coming to deal with some of the issues that we witness on a daily basis. Central Harbour, I keep an eye on your figures for that area there, and they are pretty shocking, aren't they? They are truly shocking. Over the last 4 or 5 years, there's been no reduction in them. What's even worse is that most of them are serious violence and sexual assault, which is also bad. I'm also a TPC counsellor and I sit on licensing. It's been a steep learning curve being the first time counsellor, I have to say, but in that period of time of licensing, and I understand it's very difficult to stop a licence, but recently there was a big backlash from a huge number of residents over the Goose's attempt to increase their licence. I don't know why anybody would want to buy alcohol at 3 o'clock in the morning as off sales. It's beyond me, but never mind. We never ever, I think there's been one occasion when police representation has been at a licensing meeting to try and block a licence, which I find really weird because we all know that seafront. I mean, I walked up the night of the last incident because I was at a quiz in Queen's Head, which does shut down and is part of your charter mark thing, which is an absolute superb thing. But how do we get that in Roker and the other businesses along there? I don't know. We all know that I walked up and it was very unnerving walking through town, and then we have the incident which stood over up into Albion Gardens. Why aren't we seeing the police attending those licensing meetings and supporting residents and councillors who are trying to encourage businesses or force businesses to be a bit more reasonable with their licensing hours? We know that on the seafront now that Ramsgate has become the place where people arrive after 12 o'clock because all the businesses that used to open late in Margate have shut down and they're all here. So we are creating a little powder keg situation. I used to live on the Paragon, and Thursday, Friday morning was desperate. And the police, we had a young girl at 4 o'clock in the morning with no shoes on. She was screaming her head off. The police came out and dealt with it. I had another guy at 2 o'clock in the morning, clearly wandered up from the town, attempting to climb over the fence. He was in a shocking state. I mentored young people, and they told me one female I was mentoring had been given a day club.
Sorry, can I just stop you there? I'm conscious that the chief inspector has to go, and if you've got a question, you will be asked.
Well, I'll ask a question. Why aren't we seeing more police representation trying to support residents and councillors to block particularly late, early morning licences?
Okay, so we do have a licensing officer, a licensing police officer. Currently, Steve Chapman is a licensing officer for Town Police. Every single extension or variation or application does go through Kent Police. We don't routinely attend every hearing because we usually present our either our objections or our support or our findings because it's not down to Kent Police to make the decision. What we're asked by the local authority licensing committee is are there any issues that would prevent or support this application, and we submit those. We do attend them occasionally, but normally when there's a review process going on, so it's Kent Police's responsibility to monitor the licence. There is a place in Margate, a small bar, that we're going to take to review next week because of disorder there. We were on the licensing hearing for the new Dreamland licence application. I appreciate getting that to Margate. I was there a month or so ago. I sat on it myself. So we do attend occasionally, but our hands are slightly tied on, like with any crime investigation, it's the evidential chain that we can specifically link to that individual premises. What my licence officer does say, when he submits his report, he will say there have been 50 incidents along Harbour Parade of antisocial behaviour, disorder, assault, whatever it may be. What we're not allowed to say is we reckon most of those tipped out of rock. We can't say that. We can give only the facts, which is unfortunately the reason why we are a little bit limited in what we can advise, but we do go to the licensing reviews if it goes wrong. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other residents who want to ask a question? That's what we're here for. Yes.
Hello, my name is Robert Wallace. I've started the Upper High Street regeneration scheme again that was running about 20 years ago, and that's to conserve the historic buildings.
Sorry, can you shout out?
Yeah, we're trying to conserve the historic infrastructure of that area. It's the most important part of Ramsgate historically, but for the pre-harbour Ramsgate. And there's some Dutch Gable properties up there, and we're changing the street lights. Really, we're hoping to slow down the traffic there. People tear up and down that high street at lethal speeds. And as you know, there have been some terrible accidents in Ramsgate. undermining the dominance of the motor car is something that we absolutely need to do in our society. How do you think that the police can really make some meaningful changes to combat that?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think our town centres should be heavily favoured towards pedestrianisation. I think the 20-mile-an-hour zones are good, but the issue we often have with 20-mile-an-hour restrictions is that we rely very heavily on our county colleagues, KCC, to get it right. I'll give you an example. The 20-mile-an-hour zone on Market Seafront, for example, is not worth the paper it's written on because the engineering isn't there to support it.
Well, people are ignoring it.
They're ignoring it entirely. Of course, companies can't be there all the time with the speaker. And what we say, and what we have said to KCC as is that 20-mile-an-hour zones and restricted areas and traffic calming need to be properly designed, properly engineered, so that it makes everyone's life easier. Makes Kent's life to police it easier. It makes the residents' lives easier to negotiate and navigate it. You can't just put a 20-mile-an-hour sticker on the road and hope everyone will take that.
But isn't that the start, though? Just designating it?
It can be, but it can also be. It can also cause issues if you're not doing it right, because then some people will obey it, some people won't obey it, and then you have this almost toxic mix of cars doing all sorts of different things. Because following enough, a 30-mile-an-hour zone when everyone's doing 30 is safer than a 20-mile-an-hour zone when someone's doing 40 and someone's doing 18. So you have to engineer it so that all traffic, which is how the temporaries on motorways, that's how they work, so that they bring all the traffic down to the same speed and everybody's doing the same thing. Engineering is massive, and there's a Kent police policy ratified by my bosses that says that we will help and we will assist, but we insist that it's thought about, it's planned, it's structured, and the engineering's in there. An example being on Ramsgate front, I know that there's a plan to increase the pedestrianisation of the seafront itself by cobbling it up, by raising it, and I've supported that. I signed that off from a police perspective because the designs for it are sound. Because there's going to be a ramp, there's going to be clear delineation. This is prioritisation for pedestrians. The road's going to be narrower with the cafes out on the street a little bit more. Properly designed, properly engineered, we support it all the way. My concern is by just telling people to slow down can cause more problems.
And what about pavement parking?
Pavement parking, yeah, it's a contentious issue. Weirdly, and bear with me here, it's not illegal to park on pavement. It is illegal to drive on one. So people will say, well, how did you get there? You didn't drive. The difficulty is the law is quite clear that unless an officer sees someone driving on that footway, the offence is made out. But if it's just stationary there, we're fairly powerless. The piece of legislation that we do use is unnecessary obstruction on the highway. The highway goes from the wall to the wall, including the pavement, so it's all the highway. If it's unnecessarily obstructed, so not allowing a fire engine to get down, or similarly, people with prams, etc., to get through on the other side, they can commit an offence. What I'm very cognizant of is over-promising, because every single street in every single town has the same problem. So we do have to focus on the areas where it's dangerous. And there are some places, around here where I live, where actually people put their tools under the pavement and if they did, no one would be able to drive down the road. So actually, we're looking at that street is sensible, and there are clearly other places.
Well, they could buy somewhere else.
Well, they could, but people don't. And with thousands of cars on the street, where else do they go? We've got way too many cars, I'm with you on that. But we will focus 100% on areas where it's dangerous, I can assure you that. And if it's reported to us, we will look into it.
Any other resident?
Just a quick one, and I promise it's not a tricky one. I've always been interested, what is the Ramsgate reschedule? Because it's a short run, it's got a breaking telephone, it's got plenty of stuff. Occasionally I see something going in, maybe, but I don't know. Is it somewhere I can go to, or is it staffed? Is it got hours?
It is staffed, it does have hours. the hours do vary sometimes, unfortunately, due to staff availability, because they're staffed by civilian colleagues. It has got the hours that should be advertised, they should be on the door, and you can go in to report any matter or ask for any assistance. Some of the local police officers do base themselves out there as well, and going forward into the new model, very kindly the town council allowed Kent Police to use part of this building, so you'll have some people working from here. And we have officers who've been working out of there, because not everyone can get into Margate, because when you go forward in numbers, there will be people there.
It's just, I think it would be nice for the community to know. That's our, go there. Even if it say it's 10 till 2, or 5 days a week, you know, something after the weekend or the weekend, check it out.
Oh, you really funny, yeah. I mean, when I was 16 years of age, I did my work experience at the actual police station here. In a perfect world, I'd love it to be open, and I'd love it to be 24/7, but unfortunately that's a reality that's gone. So we have what we've got, and yes, it will be available to report.
But I'm conscious of the time. The time is now 7:45, and we've got other stuff to go through. I've got 2 more speakers. I'm sorry, councillors, but I'm going to get the residents in. So if I take this young man here.
There's a lot of good community spirit in Ramsgate, and what I'm concerned with sometimes is the gaping hole between 999 and the other reporting situations. Because when you see some kids go out and say, well, no, you don't want to necessarily do 999. But if you do online reporting or you phone it 111, whatever it is, you report 101, that's like a couple of days they come back and say, you know, whereas you could nip something in the bud, maybe someone's trying to develop, maybe it's through this app, then is to have it so that the eyes on the street and maybe the people can report stuff that isn't life-threatening, but needs a relatively rapid response, like kids mucking around in multi-storey car park or breaking stuff. You phone 999, they could be chasing a drug dealer or something, and you don't want to take them off something that's really vital, but if there's someone nearby, come down with this quick, you know. If there was some sort of way we could bridge that gap between the 999, 4,000, you know, bells running in one, and a smaller, less important thing, like a medium.
Yeah, the 101 system, it has had its problems, I'll give you that. You know, high call demand often leads to, and it's triaged and assessed by a member of staff in Maidstone, and that's what the situation is. What I will say going forward, that we're working on a lot of mobile tech at the moment, so every officer on the ground will have the call system there, and they will be actively monitoring whilst they're out and about. So if you ring 101 and it's logged as a call, the caller operator in Maidstone might go, well actually I'm not going to send someone out on that. But the proactivity of the Labour team going forward, they'll go, why not, I'm just trying to report on that. And that's where we're trying to get to. So although it takes 2 days, as you quite rightly say sometimes, to send someone out, the call is recorded on our system immediately. It goes straight on. So the plan is to have the officers actively monitoring it, so that they can go, right, I'm on my patch, there's a call there, there's a call in the high street, there are kids on the roofs again, there's kids in the harbour again, all that sort of stuff. We know the sort of stuff we're talking about, and the officers can respond themselves rather than waiting to be dispatched.
Maxine Morgan. I'm a local resident, but I also work for Ramsgate County Council. And we have many problems in town, and 2 of them is one antisocial behaviour with drinking, and I do see officers walk past when people are sitting there with a can. They're not taking them off of them, so I don't know how that's going to move forward. But 2, we have vehicles driving through town between 5 and 10 when it's pedestrian. Again, I've seen officers there, I've pointed it out, I've spoke to them, and that moving vehicle is still moving, and those officers haven't done anything about it, and we get that quite often. So how's that going to move forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing to hear, because, you know, the law is the law, and what I would say to you is, you know, the message will be to my local officers that they are to tackle those local problems, and if they're not, I'd like to know.
We have been told we've got more important things to do.
Yeah, and that I have to be a little bit careful, because you never know, at that 1 second in time they might be on their way to something else. But equally, if they're just standing in the high street and they're not doing something more important, then feel free to challenge that. And if you don't get the answer you think you deserve, then please report it back. Because each of my town officers will have a sergeant, the sergeant has an inspector, and the inspector has me. So, there are chains of command, and I'm really keen to get that level of service right up. So, what I would say is that you don't get it right every single time, but sometimes there's a reason. But if there isn't a reason, then I'll make sure to pursue.
Again, is that only if the vehicle's moving that the police can do something?
What, in the
town centre?
Yeah, ironically, it comes into the law is stupid. I'd just like to say that at this point. So a one-way street, for example, it's not an offence to be parked pointing the wrong way up a one-way street, but we all know how it got there. It's that level. Because in law, you have to prove everything beyond all reasonable doubt. We have to prove beyond all reasonable doubt that that car drove up that street and wasn't helicoptered in and landed there by someone else. So, slightly flippant this one, but you understand why we have to witness many traffic offences for us to take action on traffic offences. However, that doesn't stop us having the intelligence passed to us about this repeat offender, and we can keep an eye on it.
And the same for the drinking?
There's no offence to drink in public unless it's covered by a protection order. If it's covered by one of the local orders, then the police will police it. We work with the community safety team within Thanet District Council to set public space protection orders where we advertise rules for all. Sometimes they will be that you're not allowed to have open cans of alcohol in a public place. Sometimes it will be within certain times. If it isn't declared, there's no offence of drinking in the home. Certain individuals have orders against them not to drink, so I'm sure a lot of you know some of our local repeat offenders, and we prosecute them individually for breaching their community protection notice or their community protection warning or their criminal behaviour order. In the good old days, they were called ASPOs. They're called CBOs now. Individuals have those, and if it says that they can't drink, we'll enforce on that. But the general member of the public, irrespective of maybe how dishevelled they are, it's not an offence in itself. But if they are causing antisocial behaviour, then we can take action. We can confiscate alcohol if someone is behaving in an antisocial manner. Again, we can use evidence from a member of the public to say they've been abusive, they've been threatening, they've been leery, and we can take action on that. And what I would say is if you're reporting that stuff, and again, it's not filtering through, let us know.
One last question.
My name is Brian Owen. We have a very strong voluntary community in Ramsgate, which are keen to work and help the agencies. I'm the ex-chairman of Ramsgate Business Community, and the presentation you gave tonight has been very informative and comprehensive, so thank you. And we look forward to work with you. But one of the questions that was asked 5 years ago of the business community was, can you help to address the antisocial behaviour of the weekend? And I've attended many meetings, Craig McKinley's meetings, together with the organisation. Goes on, it goes on and on. It's affecting business, it's affecting the tourism trade. So do you have a strategy for addressing it?
In short, yes. It's everything that I hope I've sort of articulated this evening going forward is the strategy to try and assist it. I'm not going to pretend I can wave a magic wand. It's a massive challenge, a huge challenge. Policing Thanet is one of the most challenging jobs I've had in all my career. Doesn't mean that I'm not relishing it and trying to go forward. However, it's a mountain to climb. There are significant levels of disorder and antisocial behaviour within the district. We know that. But you take it contextually against us versus other big urban centres. Actually, we're a very, very safe place to be. But within Kent, we've got challenges. What I will say is the resources coming forward for Thanet are higher than Canterbury, Dover, Folkestone, Ashford, Maidstone. We've got more coming here than in Maidstone. We're second only to Medway in terms of the resource and uplift going forward. I can't promise we'll solve everything. What I can promise is I'll throw everything I've got at it to try and help you.
I found experience with things, and troublemakers are a minority, a small percentage. You can identify them in Maidstone, in Margate, in Ramsgate. We have CCTV cameras. So once you identify the troublemakers, target them.
Yeah, and we do. I promise you we do. There are currently, I think, 30 criminal behaviour orders on young people in Thanet. That's the highest in the county, which is a bit depressing, but also encouraging that, my officers are taking it seriously. There's more to do, but I assure you, we use all those tactics to target.
Well, the community will be happy to work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian, for coming to see. Very great.
Never let it go.
I think we let them go.
Well, just let Ian leave and then we'll carry on. So what else is there?
Thank you.
Gentlemen, you haven't already got the right to stay.
Yeah, leave whenever you like. Anyone can leave whenever you like. You're not changed. You're not made to stay. Certainly that. Certainly you can leave whenever you like. Right. Item two on the agenda is the report from Ramsgate Town Council, and that's to receive the report of the council's activities over the last year. These activities will be done by the chairman of each committee. We'll just go through those. Firstly, it'll be me in relation to the overall council. And if you could, any questions you have, if you could wait till everyone's spoken, and then we'll answer your questions at the end. So for the overall council, the precept for 23-24 was increased by 2%. This equates to £1.62 per year for a Band D property. The increase was required due to the rising fuel costs, staffing costs, and a number of capital projects that are in the pipeline, which includes the building that you're sitting in right now. Despite suggestions normally on social media, to the contrary, no funds have been spent by Ramsgate Town Council in relation to the Maidstone Airport issue in the past year. So I just want to make that absolutely clear. The council resolves to take over the Eastcliff lift. We've got money coming from the leader of the council towards that, and we hope to get that completed in the very short term. And that is an asset transfer, and that's for us at Ramsgate Town Council to get the lift operating. We have been approached a number of times by residents, not just elderly people who need to go up and down to the lift, which they should be able to do quite easily, but also from families who've got friends and visitors and we're also looking to take on a licence for the Eastcliff bandstand to get that renewed, reworking, and that is in due process. And the other things that we're doing currently as well is looking at taking over Albion Gardens and all of the cutting of grass, maintaining all the plants and shrubs, etc., etc. We will not be taking on the waterfall, and we would not be taking on the Pullamites. It's too much. There's too much for little old Ramsgate Town Council to do that. That is the funds Thanet Council when they should be doing that. The Ramsgate Fund has assisted community groups and organisations with 12 projects totaling £34,434. £59,729 has been awarded in grants to enable events and activities in the town. The council has set its strategic aims for the coming year. This, of course, may be subject to change by the new council that comes in May. Some of us, or all of us, might be here in the new council, and there may be a completely new council, who knows. So that is a brief thing about the overview that the council has done. Councillor Makinson, who's not here this evening, she's the chair of the Planning and Infrastructure Committee. So I'm just going to give you a very brief update from me on that. The members of that committee have called in 78 planning applications for scrutiny and comment that are given to Thanet District Council. Obviously, Ramsgate Town Council doesn't process planning applications, but we do make comment on them, specifically in relation to our conservation areas and listed buildings. A lot of our applications, of course, are mainly residential, small applications for extensions, etc. The long-running Ramsgate Neighbourhood Plan, which has probably got on longer than Coronation Street, has progressed, I'm pleased to say. A consultation on the themes and aims of the neighbourhood plan will commence in May, and that means you will all be notified to give your opinion on the neighbourhood plan. We need that to be able to do that, and so that, as I say, that will take place in May. Before I go on to the next ones, which will be finance and general purposes, which is Councillor Green, I've just been asked to say we're just going to have a presentation from the Mayor quickly, and I'll pass that over to.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to see you all here at Bradford House, and it is my honor and privilege to be here today as your Mayor. And I would like to thank all my colleagues for electing me in 2022 as the Mayor of Ramsgate. During the last year, I have attended many ceremonial events as well as community events. Ceremonial events, some of them, I think many of you have attended as well, namely Armed Forces Day, Remembrance Sunday, and Holocaust Memorial Service. I think I must emphasize on the Holocaust Memorial Service is one of the most important events that I have managed to organize within not only last year but last 4 years with a multi-faith group. So every year there was a multi-faith group that conducted the service, and every year we have increased the number of people, residents, attended the service. And it's not only from Ramsgate, from all over Thanet, even people from Canterbury as well. So I am very proud to say that the Holocaust service in Ramsgate has been going very, very well for Ramsgate Town Council. And also I would like to highlight the Queen's Jubilee party that Ramsgate Town Council organized for 4 days event. And the street party, I think we rocked. We rocked with, we did so many different things. We did the, I forgot the name of lighting the beacon and the parade around the tunnel, and there are so many other things that we managed to do. And I'm really proud of our town council and the town promoter, Rebecca Smith. She did a wonderful job, carrying out all the work, and for 4 days continuously. So we must give her a big hand for the And I also feel proud that over the year, even throughout the pandemic, we managed to open many of the businesses in Harbour Street and in the town center. I think our town center is looking amazingly wonderful now. And, new shops are opening every often, weeks, every other week, and they're doing very well as well. I think we're booming. We're having the international cuisines in Harbour Street, like we can call it, There are lots of different restaurants are opening there, and they're all surviving in this difficult time. So I feel really proud of that. And my highlights of the last 4 years, I started doing my monthly litter picking with the volunteers. I mean, as we all know, we have wonderful volunteer groups in Ramsgate. Without them, I don't think Ramsgate would have survived and wouldn't look clean and tidy how it looks today, for not only for us as the residents, but for welcoming visitors. And throughout the year, I have donated nearly 400 litter pickers. So I believe that, every corner, every pocket of groups in the street, somebody has my litter picker, and they are always organizing a litter picking event surrounding, their areas, or even within their family members, or even the voluntary groups. And they don't only do litter picking, the gardening, the open spaces in our town are looking wonderful, and I'm so proud of them, and I really would like to thank you, a big thank you for them for doing all this hard work and giving their time and effort. And same time, I must mention our town technicians. They have been working so hard every day of the week. We can see them everywhere. They are trying to do their best to keep our town center clean and tidy. So very big thanks to all our technicians and the Ramsgate town. Thank you. So, I think finally I would like to say thank you to my deputy mayor, Councillor Pat Moore, some of the events she attended when I couldn't attend. Thank you for doing that. And all the staff at Ramsgate Town Council, the chair, the clerk, and all my colleagues, and my PA, and our new town Sergeant Paul, I think he's here somewhere. He's doing a wonderful job. So yeah, it has been a wonderful year, last 4 years, being the mayor of Ramsgate, your mayor, and it was really, I was honored to be your mayor. Thank you for everything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Roshan. I'm going to now pass you over to Councillor Green, who will give you his update on the finance and general purposes.
Thank you, Steve. The council employs 2 groups of staff. First up are the technicians and the promoter, who Rachel has already mentioned. The second group of staff are the office-based staff who work to our town clerk, who's new to us, relatively new to us, probably doesn't see it that way. She and they have worked very hard bringing the council's administration
into the 21st century.
It's first of all into the 20th century. We've got a long way to go, but we're making great progress. As well as the people, technicians that work out in the town, we're also supporting a session supervisor at the Citizens Advice Bureau to ensure that they can give face-to-face help to citizens in the town. And we provided a counselling room for the crisis counselling service, and funded this year the Salvation Army soup run over this winter. So we're trying to do our bit for across the town. We're very conscious about the climate change issues. We've set up a working group with residents to improve our performance, and we cut down on the amount of single-use plastic to be used, and we're increasing recycling, and we're working on reducing our fuel in our vehicles and in the two buildings that we own. We have an engagement strategy to try to keep the residents informed about what the council does, and if you're on social media, I'm sure you will see the increase in our presence. We manage over 400 allotment plots across 5 sites across the town. Very popular, very long waiting list. So we're looking, if we can find it at the right price, for more land to increase our markets. Finally, from me, we started a grant scheme that allows councillors to give small grants to people in their ward that are doing good things. And that seems to be well received. So financially, that's where we are, and we were concerned this year to keep any increase in our precept as low as possible. Thank you.
Hello, Councillor Nixon, Chair. I'm proud to be the chair of the Bradford House Committee, so I'm overseeing the whole development of this particular building to be turned into a community hub. So it's an incredible thing for us to do. There's lots going on, it's very exciting. And before I just say anything else, because we want you to know exactly what's going on and to be part of it with us, we have a Bradford House Facebook page and a Bradford House Instagram account. So if you get a chance to follow those at all, pass it on to your friends, then you too can see what we're up to. To give you a quick update on things so far. So we bought the building, we need to change it to community hub, therefore we need an architect and a huge team on board. Well, we've got that in place, which is great. So we've got a professional design team, they're finalising the details of the whole redesign, and the actual work itself, so construction and so on and so forth, is expected to start either at the end of this year or the very beginning of next year. So we're talking about January 24. There's a lot of things to be put in place meanwhile. And to help us do that, we've got to think about like the business plan, the best use of this building is for the people in the vicinity, because it is the whole Ramsgate. So we have something which is called a meanwhile use. So as the building is in this state, the meanwhile use is being able to do things and seeing how they work. Tonight being one of them, so thank you very much for coming along and helping us with that. So the building has to pay for itself as well. It's not just like a village hall where you come and use it. This thing has to facilitate its own revenue. So sections of it will be rented out to groups and so on and so forth, rooms for hire, that sort of thing. And that's our business plan that we're working for. And so this is our opportunity between now and late October to try different things. So within the next few months, you'll hear that maybe there'll be a market in the downstairs hall, or somebody might be doing a class upstairs, or some artist might have hired a room for a studio, or there might be a coffee morning talk here, and there'll be these things that will be happening in Radford House in the next few months for us to be able to get feedback from the community and also gauge what works, what revenue we got in, what revenue did we pay out, and so on and so forth. So that really is about inputs into our long-term business plan. We can't do that on our own. Councillors are busy lives are often jobs as well, which is something that we do. So I'm very pleased to say we've appointed the wonderful Sue Humphries at the back there, who is our community engagement and events organiser. We just events organiser in short, because let's forget the first, it's too complicated. She's doing a sterling job at the moment by reaching out to the public, explaining what we're doing, showing people around, asking questions about how, if you were a group, how would you use the building? Would you be interested to use the building? Would you be interested at these costs, and so on and so forth? And a lot of that groundwork where we have to collect information to see what we will need in a business plan. We have things obviously booked in between now and October, things for the Festival of Sound, which is coming up, the Senses Festival, Therapy for Children, Horrible Art Spaces, and a variety of other hirers are now being made, so there is a lot going on. And the last thing I'll say very quickly is there is a programme of external repairs to be in the next couple of months, so there are couple of ongoing maintenance issues that we're dealing with in the meantime, while we also continue to go through stage 2 and other things, us being able to do the backgrounds to be able to get the fantastic team, our project manager and quantity surveyor and heritage people and everything are incredible, working together to continue the process of getting this building to the best it can be. So very happy about that. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Well, I'm just going to hand you over now to Councillor Crittenden.
Who is the chair of the town promotion committee?
Yeah, thank you.
Let's give that out microphone. The joy of the town promotion committee is it does what it says on the tin, it promotes the town. Now let's see if I can get the job title right. Our town centre and tourism manager, who used to be called our town promoter, which is why I was trouble with changing the name. Rebecca Smith has already been mentioned, particularly by Councillor Ara. She's the stalwart of making town promotion work. Without her, I'm not quite sure how we would do that so easily. Some of the things that the town promotion committee, the town promotion is about, is exactly what it says, promoting the town. That is to visitors, to drawing visitors to the town, but also to the people of Ramsgate as well, and for the activities for the people of Ramsgate. So on my little crib sheet here, I'm reminded that the Visitor Information Centre is now open 7 days a week, and one of Rebecca's jobs is to oversee the Visitor Centre staff, volunteer staff there. There's a monthly pop-up market at Charlotte Court which has started. And some of the other examples of work that comes under the town promotion has come in the 3-day town centre Jubilee event that was organised, and grants were given across the wards to support neighbourhood Jubilee street parties a while ago. Now, to show my phallic roots, the only way I can remember that it's Facelift Thursday is by call it Facelift Thursday. And that's where we come back to our technicians. They blitz a neglected area of the town every Thursday to try and make things look nicer. The standard of our environment is what helps us to feel good about our town. So they will do things like litter picking, get rid of graffiti, and just deal with some of those issues that make the area look neglected to make it look less neglected.
Also coming under the auspices of the Town Promotion Committee is the Active Ramsgate, the Active Ramsgate initiative. It's been running actually now for about 7 or 8 years. I think Councillor Green, it started under Councillor Green's command some years ago. And through that we promote, particularly to tourists, Ramsgate as an active place to visit. So this can be about walking, cycling, swimming, but also over the years we've promoted kite surfing, and there's bird watching is a particular focus this year. We've also introduced paddleboarding and other activities that are focusing on making use of our Ramsgate resources. We have recently created a new part-time role to manage the Active Ramsgate initiative. We haven't actually appointed anyone to it yet because there have been some delays in that, but that's in the pipeline. We're hoping that we're going to have a new part-time manager for that particular element of the whole Active Ramsgate and Town Promotion. And the other initiative that started is an open spaces strategy, which was introduced earlier. And I have to comment again on the technicians for some of the idea behind this, because the technicians were looking at ideas of how we could improve our area, and we're talking about pocket parks. And so the taking on the pocket parks and building on that idea is to look at the open spaces and how we as Ramsgate Town Council and technicians can improve our open spaces by working alongside and working with some of our many volunteer gardening groups and see what we can do to improve and help the planting, the niceness of it, and just again to reduce the environmental poverty of the area and make things so much better. I'm getting a lovely winding up signal from the chair, and that's just great for me because I was about to wind up, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, the reason I was winding it up was because it's now 8:25, so this is due to finish in 5 minutes. However, I'm opening the floor up to you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Who's not spoken yet? John, you've not spoken yet, have you?
Amazingly.
Yeah.
It's the first time for everything. I'll stand up. John Davis, I'm a resident. We don't always agree, the council, and I do it, but I want to raise something that this council did historically and did a superb job. And that was about 6 years ago when O'Regan and Brett tried to expand. Peter Campbell chaired a meeting at Chatham House of this community. I've still got the message where I said for once I was proud to be part of this. We face the same real and excellent problem right now. Brett's want to double their footprint. We won't get into the predetermination about the barge and all that nonsense. My question to every councillor in the room tonight is, are you going to stand firm as you did 6 years ago and see this threat up? Questions to everyone.
Here.
As you've heard at the start of this, we are in Perda.
That doesn't affect an individual's position on whether...
It doesn't affect your individual opinion. It could be construed as us as sitting councillors that should we answer this question whatever way, that we could be seen to be electioneering. And so...
Because I've asked now... Perda hasn't started, by the way.
Yes, it has. It started last Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why does Perda prevent business as usual? The delegated authority to the chief executive was to negotiate and talk to them. Therefore, we need to be reacting now. If that's business as usual, surely taking a position yourself as business as usual.
John, because
I'm not trying to be awkward.
No. All I would say to you is that any Ramsgate Town Council is being consulted in relation to the levelling up fund of what's being spent.
So that's not Brex.
No, but it's part of it, because the reason is because they want to expand. The council, Thanet District Council, is looking at the levelling up fund as to whether the roll-on, roll-off area should include that piece of land that Brex have applied for to take over. Now, what I can advise you is that Thanet District Council hasn't made a decision yet as to whether that they would let them have it or not, because
You're better enforcing the breaches of the lease instead of worrying about renegotiating it.
I can't answer anything.
Sorry,
because I don't know. But that's as far as I'm going. I'm not going to ask
Could I supplement the question then?
to answer that question.
When Ramsgate Town Council, as you've said, has been consulted, perhaps I could ask a quick supplementary. Therefore, if they've been consulted on this, what is the position that's been agreed?
We have not been consulted as yet about the Brex issue because Thanet District Council hasn't decided as to whether it's going to go with it or not.
Okay, thank you.
We've not been asked.
But it is an issue, and I would like and for the next administration.
When we can take it up, the next administration will look at it and give an answer. Yes,
Thank you, Chair. For once, I have to say, the elephant is outside the room. Not, where is everybody? When we arrive, there seems to be more councillors than there are residents in this meeting. So question number one, what is done to advertise this, and what could be done in the future to make sure that more people take advantage of this opportunity?
What I can advise you is that one of our officers at the council has notified at least 50 residential groups across Ramsgate. All other areas, we've put it out on the website. I'll stand up.
I can confirm that this year the notification about the meeting, including a pre-notification about the meeting, has been pushed further and wider than all our previous meetings. And all the engagement has been very little in advance of this meeting, and so we're not sure why, because the message has gone further and wider than it has previously.
Well, I'm the chair of Spencer Square, and I found out in the middle of last week through the We Love Ramsgate website. I tried to put it out as best I could, but certainly what used to be called Spencer Square Residents Association wasn't contacted. Maybe we need to have a chat to make sure that we're on the list for next year. Two quick supplementaries. I know this is with Ramsgate Town Council, but we'll do a couple of hazards. When are we going to get our waterfall back? And secondly, are we ever going to get a street, it's not my area, so, but are we going to get a street market working?
Well, I can answer both of those questions for you. As far as the waterfall is concerned, that's a matter of the Thanet District Council, and I can advise you that both the councillors in Central Harbour and the councillors in Eastcliff have been banging on about this. It was left unresolved for ages. Then there was problems because there are evidently mating lizards within the area, and nothing can be done until the season is finished. And also the pump is too old and it's broken down a number of times. We've asked for a new pump, a new everything to be installed, and that is what. So obviously, as councillors are in the hands of the officers, we've told them what we want. We've told the cabinet member who's responsible for it that Ramsgate needs this going because it's one of Ramsgate's like little jewels, and it's actually needed, and it's a great thing to have. The other issue was street marketing. Yeah. Personally, I can say that again, Central Harbour residents, Central Harbour councillors and District councillors, because it comes between the two of our wards as to where the market used to be in the high street. What I can tell you is that the Thanet District Council have now actually employed some more officers to deal with all the outstanding issues, and that is one of them. Now, I've met with the officer concerned down in the high street, because back in the day I was responsible for getting that market working up and running in the high street. So I know where every store was and everything. So he's fully aware of that. They've gone out to the market to see if there is anyone willing to actually put a market there, because that's the difficulty. Humark, who were there previously, it wasn't paying, whether it was because they didn't have the right market stalls, etc., etc. However, I understand, I've been told that there is a company that run Swanley Market for Swanley Council. They are interested in bringing it down. We're currently being held up, so I'm told, by Kent County Council in relation to the use of the highway and other issues of that. So as far as I can tell you at the moment, it is in hand, it is progressing, and we hope, certainly as your representative, that we get the market done as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can't speak for the Ramsgate meeting visitors, but I hope my question will be entirely with the town council's remit. It's the only question I've come to ask, to be honest with you. What is the town council's plans for installing the King George statue that was donated to the town?
I'm just trying to go through my mind with, as far as I am aware, the money has not yet been raised for it to be completed. Obviously you had the previous thing that was put out during the Queen's Jubilee. But speaking to the widow of the sculptor, as I'm aware, the money that they need to complete it has not been raised yet. So as far as that's concerned, we've not been approached by anybody.
Has the town council taken on any kind of responsibilities or any kind of action to get this money raised? Because money doesn't raise itself.
No, as far as I'm aware, they went, the last thing I know was obviously they had a stall down in the...
No, I mean, has the council ever had this on your agenda? Have you ever discussed it?
No.
You answered my question, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Next question.
Yeah.
If I follow on from the market issue, I know we've got double hatters and things, but I seem to think that we really need to sort out parking in Ramsgate to get people back in, and the Thanet Council just sees parking as a revenue stream, it just puts prices up, and everyone goes to Westwood Cross and Ramsgate. So if you do have a market or have a park, I'm just thinking there has to be some way of allowing a certain amount of free parking at a certain time during the week, just to encourage footfall in the high street, or go down and you park and you get the first park an hour free, or something like that, some strategy which would benefit everyone. But to take away this whole thing about just, I know we've got too many cars, I'm sympathetic with that as well, but the reality is that people in the town running businesses need footfall. Footfall is brought there by cars a lot of the time, and we've got an aging population that need their cars to get to the town centre. So with the town council back an initiative to allow for a period of free parking at some specific shopping time. So if it was a Friday market, you have a Friday morning or something, or where you can come down. With the IT that's available now, it should be feasible.
Okay, I think to be on the safe side of not politicising it at all, Thanet District Council has already instigated a parking review across the whole of Thanet. That is out with consultants to see what is the best way forward. And part of that consultation is including pricing of it. I think without going too far, that we all believe that there's certain things that can be done which we think would make it easier and would benefit businesses. So I can't say anything further than that because, but once that parking review is out and we see it, that's something then that once the parking review has been completed, that's something that Ramsgate Town Council can then look at. But you must bear in mind that all of the parking is run by Thanet District Council and also Kent County Council. We have very little say that. We can ask, but we have very little input on that.
I just noticed that when they extended where you were charged for parking, whereas previously not people paid into town shop, you could park up for a while down, you brought the next day, maybe there was a 2-hour restriction or something. They were always full, and when they put the machines in, there were roads. I was taking photographs of Cavendish Street, for instance, during peak shopping times, no one's there. It's too good, and it just seems that proximity to the town centre to have some sort of,
if I could just give you an instance, the Mayor a couple of years ago asked if we could get Thanet District Council to have free parking on No. On the no, we want free.
Oh, we wanted it to the other wanted storage. Oh, it's going to cost you.
Yeah, we wanted just so we could have free parking and especially on Remembrance Sunday. Yeah. All we asked for was 3 hours on Remembrance Sunday for free parking for people to attend Remembrance services, and we were told no. So, we have tried to do things in past, and we will try to do things again in the future. But as I say, once the parking review is done, we will have a better idea of what the consultants are saying, and then we could try and work in with that and see what any pressure that we can put to bear to make it better and easier for both our residents and our businesses. That is what we would do. Did you want to say anything? No, sure. Oh, yeah,
This is quite a lot, just a lot of consideration. The time of ball, I mean, when I was a kid, that was all working. Who's responsible for it? No.
The
time of ball, we don't even know what it is. It's outside the void.
Oh,
and every high tide, that will actually be
not ball. Sorry.
I'm just wondering who's responsible for it?
That's Thanet District Council.
And sort of like nobody's actually sort of like
It does, well, that would probably come under the auspice of the harbour, and that would probably come under the harbour master to get that done. But I think it's certainly something that we could.
That's just a historical thing, the traditional historical background of the town, which is a result of it.
It's not like the one in field, so it used to have a shed around it, and a little, I'm assuming it was, I'm told it was a little man that used to come out and wind the ball up at high tide. In Deal, it actually, it's some way in Deal it works without somebody being employed.
The same man used to fire the county.
I agree with you, it would be really great as part of heritage to see it, the bottom restored, and actually.
Well, yeah, the thing actually went up on time.
But it's a TBC issue.
It just was sort of like,
well, what I can say to you is, we're more than happy to take that on board as a council and raise that with Thanet District Council to see if we can get that done.
Right.
Happy to do that. Yes.
Roshan, you were saying that things are changing rapidly, and I think that particularly on the great. I think I'd like to thank Ramsgate Town Council actually for really being behind, on the right side of the terrible issues. There are a number of really big issues in Ramsgate, and it seems to me that Ramsgate Town Council really are behind them, and it's absolutely wonderful. And it's necessary, if this is, if it is going to change. But what is being done really about making big changes with the relationship with TDC? Because as everybody knows, people spit when they say TDC. Their reputation is so terrible. And that might be a reason why people haven't turned up this evening. I don't know. It really does have to change. And I'm wondering what is the vision of Ramsgate in terms of actually making a big change in the Constitution, whereby we can have some autonomy in what happens in this really wonderful town.
Well, what I can say to that is that our town clerk, when she came in, we all knew as councillors that we didn't have the right relationship with Stanley District Council, and that was a two-way thing. Since Laura's come in, she worked very hard on that.
Yeah.
We've worked hard on it as well, and I'm pleased to say that relationship has grown. We have meetings on a regular basis. We have an officer dedicated to Ramsgate Town Council and the District Council, for which we can report anything to or that we need to be done. We continue building on that. And one of the things that's one of the reasons why we're looking to take on the lift, the bandstand, Albion Gardens, and looking at other issues as well, to be able to ensure that Ramsgate gets the best deal. We're also concerned as well, and we're working hard on that as well, that we believe our residents believe it as well, that Ramsgate does not get the same financial input from the Thanet District Council that Margate gets and Broadstairs gets. We're always making the case that we're basically the lost town out of the three. We treat it like a poor relation. So we're working hard on that, and we hope, depending who's here after May, that will continue, and we can continue the fight to get the best things for Ramsgate.
I'm a great supporter of town councils, and I think they need more powers, and I believe it can be given to town councils. But it's a much bigger subject than what we're hearing now.
Right, everybody's nearly forward tonight. We've gone 15 minutes over our time. I'd like to thank you all for coming this evening. Thank you for your input. And thank you to my fellow councillors for turning up, and for the staff for the copies.